From getting kids stranded on an island to faking a global pandemic, Bart's worst moments aren't harmless pranks, they're full-blown disasters. These are the dumbest, most childish things Bart has ever done, and it all begins with a bus ride that went horribly wrong. Disaster doesn't always begin with a storm. Sometimes it starts with fruit. On a school field trip, with Otto as the only adult in charge. Yes, Otto. Bart decides the best way to pass time is to start a fruit race on the moving bus. He and Nelson roll apples and oranges down the aisle to see which one goes faster. Childish? Sure. Dangerous? Incredibly. Milhouse, desperate to join in, flings a grapefruit a little too hard. It wedges under Otto's brake. Smoke pours from the dashboard. Otto yells he can't see, and before anyone knows what's happening, the bus fishtails, jumps a bridge, and plunges into a river. Luckily, the kids make it to shore, but now they're stranded on an island, completely alone. And Bart, he's thrilled. He immediately declares himself king of the island, shouting they'll live like damn hell-ass kings. Reality hits fast though. No food, no shelter, no plan, just panic and sand. When hunger sets in, Bart swims back to the bus to retrieve a cooler of snacks, using Milhouse's inhaler as a breathing device. But the next morning, the snacks are mysteriously gone. Milhouse is found surrounded by empty wrappers and immediately blamed. Though he insists a monster stole the food, nobody believes him. It turns into a full-blown trial. Bart plays judge, Lisa defends him, and everything spirals into chaos. The monster turns out to be a wild boar. Milhouse was telling the truth all along, but the damage is done. The kids had already descended into Lord of the Flies territory, all because Bart turned a bus ride into a demolition derby. And somehow they were saved by Moe. Yeah, don't act. But that wasn't the last time Bart's childishness spiraled into something huge. The next time, it ended with him moving out and legally divorcing his parents. He finds an old VHS labeled Bart Sad, only to realize it's actually Bart Sad, a humiliating commercial that aired nationwide. Homer admits he was going to tell him on his deathbed. And oh yeah, the money gone, all of it, spent without even a thank you. That's when Bart snaps. He tells Marge he's had enough of Homer's disrespect, and when Milhouse suggests getting a lawyer to make Homer cry, Bart takes it a step further. He files for legal emancipation. The judge agrees, and just like that, Bart moves out. At age 10, he gets a loft, decorates it with skate ramps, and tries to live like a cool, independent adult. It lasts about 5 minutes. He's terrified of rats, confused by elevators, and monitored by a webcam that streams his every move. Still, he tells his parents he's leaving town to join a rock and roll extreme sports tour with Tony Hawk. In classic Homer fashion, the only way he can win Bart back is by beating Tony at skateboarding. And somehow, Homer almost pulls it off. But Bart sets the record straight. It's never been about being cool. It's about never feeling like Homer cared how he felt. Homer finally apologizes, and in a weird, only on The Simpsons moment, he agrees to star in a commercial for a baldness rub called Viagrain, just to give the money to Bart. Side effects? Hair loss, scalp burns, and we'll just say below the belt problem. Bart doesn't come home that day. But the truth is, under all that rebellion was just a kid who wanted to feel heard. And the next time Bart wanted more out of life, he didn't sue his parents. He hijacked a luxury cruise and faked a global apocalypse. School sucks. Bart knows it. We know it. But instead of faking a stomachache or pulling a fire alarm, Bart takes it several levels too far. After seeing a cruise commercial that promises the most fun week of your life, Bart becomes obsessed with escaping the depressing loop of school, chores, and arguments at home. He sells all his possessions to try and pay for the trip, but it's still not enough. The next morning though, his money jar is mysteriously full. A miracle? Not exactly. Turns out, his family saw how badly he wanted this and secretly sold their own stuff to make it happen. So now, Bart's dream comes true. A perfect cruise with unlimited food, games, and time away from Springfield. Everything's going great until Bart hears the crew sing a farewell song, reminding everyone that the vacation only lasts a week. That single moment breaks him. Bart spirals into a full-blown existential panic. He can't go back to his old life, so he fakes a global pandemic. He hijacks the ship's broadcast system and plays a fake news video about a deadly Pandora virus sweeping the planet. Passengers panic, the ship locks down. Everyone believes they're trapped at sea for the foreseeable future. And Bart He's finally relaxed. 12 days later, the cruise is a floating nightmare. No food, no electricity, no escape. People are preparing for death. Also, Bart can delay returning to school. Eventually, Bart's lie is exposed. The crew staff doesn't take it lightly. Instead of punishing him the normal way, they drop the entire Simpson family in Antarctica. Lisa calls it the most selfish thing Bart has ever done, and she's not wrong. Bart thought he was preserving happiness, but what he really did was ruin hundreds of lives for a vacation he couldn't let go of. That's not just dumb. That's sociopathic. But believe it or not, that wasn't the only time Bart's dumb ideas ruined someone's life. Next, he gets a teacher fired by spiking her coffee with alcohol. It all starts when Edna Krabappel tries and fails to get her students off their phones. They completely ignore her, so she finally snaps and confiscates every single device. Bart, of course, sees this as a declaration of war. The solution: make her fun. Inspired by how relaxed Homer is after a few beers, Bart decides Edna just needs a little help to loosen up. So he and his friends sneak liquor into her morning coffee. Yeah, they get their teacher drunk at school. And just to make sure she's properly wasted, Bart spikes her coffee again. Edna starts slurring her words, laughing uncontrollably, and stumbling around the classroom. Even the union can't protect her from what happens next. Principal Skinner has no choice. She's fired on the spot. At first, Bart feels kind of bad, but not bad enough to confess. That is until he visits Edna's apartment. She's a wreck. Broke. Depressed. Wearing a bathrobe all day. The only man who still wants her. Disco Stew. That's rock bottom. Bart tries to help her bounce back. He brings her a self-help book, helps her chase a dream of opening a muffin shop, and for a while it seems like he's doing something good, until he lets it slip that the whole makeover was just him trying to make up for something. Edna immediately figures it out, and what she says next cuts deeper than any punishment Bart's ever faced. "I never thought I'd say this to a child, but you are bad on the inside." It's one of the harshest lines ever said to Bart, and honestly, she had a point. But if you think that was low, just wait until Bart gets into voodoo and revenge in the middle of New Orleans. New Orleans is known for jazz, beignets, and apparently Bart's revenge fantasies. The Simpsons head to the Big Easy, hoping to cheer up Lisa, who's feeling crushed after being told she'll never make it as a saxophone legend. Bart, meanwhile, is still licking his wounds after being humiliated by school bullies, forced to wear a ridiculous costume and sing Tomorrow in front of the entire cafeteria. So while Lisa searches for purpose, Bart is plotting payback. Marge tries to cheer him up with sightseeing, but nothing catches his interest until they stumble into a creepy little shop full of voodoo dolls. Suddenly, Bart's gears start turning. He grabs a few, burns their feet, and waits for anything to happen. Milhouse becomes his sidekick in this dark little hobby, updating Bart on whether the bullies have mysteriously burst into flames or not. Spoiler, they haven't. At least not yet. But then something bizarre happens. The bullies do start freaking out. Turns out they overheard Milhouse talking about the dolls and now believe they've been cursed. Chaos erupts, and just like that, Bart's prank becomes real. Or at least real enough to terrify a bunch of middle schoolers. While Lisa eventually finds her confidence playing with a jazz band downtown, Bart proudly watches the bullies suffer from their own paranoia. But here's the catch. Bart never actually had any power. It was all fear, all suggestion. The voodoo was fake, but the emotional manipulation, very real. And once again, Bart weaponized pure childish nonsense into a psychological nuke. In this next story, it proves Bart doesn't grow out of this stuff. Even in his 20s, he's still acting like a 10-year-old. Mr. Lisa's Opus gives us a glimpse into Lisa's future as she writes her Harvard admission essay. While she reflects on her upbringing, Bart pops into the background, unchanged, unfiltered, and completely unserious even in his 20s. He interrupts her with jokes about extinct animals. He's still skipping responsibilities, still pulling pranks, still being Bart. And when Homer starts choking him, yes, still, Bart's response isn't fear or remorse. It's "you're choking someone who can legally vote now." Cool comeback. Still, Lisa's letter reveals more than just Bart's stunted maturity. On her birthdays year after year, he made things worse. One year, the family forgot entirely. Another time, he stole the spotlight with one of Homer's recycled birthday songs. Even when Lisa found Marge's packed suitcase, thinking she might leave Homer, Bart's only reaction was, "Please let me be the one to tell him." He's still the same attention-hungry kid, just with facial hair. Lisa goes on to say her family never made anything easy, which is both a compliment and an emotional cry for help. Bart's consistent immaturity is part of what made her life so chaotic and so full of lessons. And the wildest part, he's proud of it. Even when Lisa heads off to college, Bart gives her a pep talk filled with nonsense metaphors about earworms chewing into brains. It's gross, it's weird, and it's weirdly sweet, because no matter how dumb he acts, Bart always shows up when it counts, even if he does ruin everything along the way. But what happens when Homer tries to make Bart better? The answer involves model glue, shattered dreams, and one very ugly cathedral. After burning his tongue and being forced to eat bland food, Homer ends up eating lunch at Bart's school, the only place with flavorless enough meals. While there, he meets another parent who proudly claims she's at school every day, hovering over her son to ensure perfect grades. Homer, he's stunned. He always figured teachers would handle that. But when she implies that her son will one day employ Bart, Homer panics. Suddenly, he's determined to turn Bart into a success story through sheer force. Enter Helicopter Homer. Bart is voluntold to enter a model building contest. Homer initially picks the simplest thing, the Washington Monument, but after being shamed by Principal Skinner for taking the lazy route, Homer ditches that plan and decides to build the most complicated structure in the store, Westminster Abbey. It's 3,242 pieces, Bart is 10. Instead of helping Bart build it or, teaching him anything, Homer takes over completely. He micromanages every detail. Bart is reduced to watching from the side while his dad turns a school project into a midlife crisis outlet. Eventually, Homer burns out and falls asleep on the job, literally ruining the model with his own drool. They slap the pieces together anyway and submit it. And then, in a shocking twist, Bart wins. Not because the model is good, but because it looks like a disaster only a child could make. The judges are impressed by how genuinely terrible it is. Bart confronts Homer afterward and asks why he wasn't allowed to do anything himself. That's when Homer delivers a line he probably saw on a mug. "Experience is simply the name we give to our mistakes." Homer messed up, big time. But don't worry, he swears the only thing he'll ever do for Bart again is co-sign. If he wants a gun, thanks, Dad. But if Homer tried too hard, Marge worried not enough until she had a full-on breakdown over Bart growing up. Marge has dealt with a lot over the years. Homer's antics, Lisa's existential crises, Maggie's silence, but nothing rattles her more than the slow realization that Bart is slipping away. It starts with a dream. She's back in the past, playing with Bart and Lisa. Everything's perfect until Bart starts fading from her arms. She wakes up in a panic, sweating, sick, and spiraling. Homer asks if she's okay. Her answer, "I'm fine." Classic Marge denial. But she's not fine. She starts throwing up from stress and insists she still has to attend the school's bounce-a-thon, a fun run-like event where Bart and the kids all give thumbs up at the finish line. It's a tradition, one she needs in her scrapbook. It's her way of freezing time. But as the dreams get more intense, she realizes this isn't just about a race. It's about losing Bart to adolescence, to independence, to that terrifying thing called middle school. In one dream, she confronts Lisa and admits she's afraid. Lisa calmly tells her, "You're lucid dreaming, Mom," which only raises more questions for Marge. She starts sorting through memories, like a parent clinging to home videos, trying to find the moment everything changed. Meanwhile, Bart isn't helping. He tells Marge he won't do the traditional thumbs up at the finish line. "It's just not me this year," he says. That one small sentence crushes her. It's the moment every parent dreads, realizing your kid has changed, and there's no going back. Marge continues to deteriorate. She eventually passes out at the event. Bart's teacher explains that she never said his childhood was over, just that he's entering a new phase. But that's the thing. For Marge, every small shift feels like a goodbye. She wakes just in time to see Bart cross the finish line, and in a perfect full circle moment, he moons the crowd. Marge laughs through her tears. "Was my crack centered?" he asks. "It was perfect," she says. Bart may be growing up, but in that moment, he's still her goofy, impulsive little boy. And speaking of childish, Bart's next move gets him sent to rehab for pranks. At this point, Bart's pranks aren't just dumb, they're citywide threats. It all starts when Principal Skinner fakes his own retirement just to pull a prank on Bart. After years of being terrorized, Skinner finally gets payback. He invites Bart on stage for a farewell gift, then humiliates him in front of the entire school. It's cold, it's calculated, and he doesn't take it well. That night, Bart breaks into dozens of houses and glues clown masks onto every sleeping adult in town. Yes, clown masks. The next morning, Springfield wakes up in full horror movie mode. Everyone's screaming. Even Krusty the Clown's career implodes. Kids are terrified of clowns now, and Krusty's advertisers flee in panic. Bart doesn't feel bad. In fact, he laughs it off. That is, until Marge steps in. She's had enough, not just of the prank, but of Bart's complete lack of remorse. She takes him to juvenile court where the judge, unsurprisingly, lets him off with a boys will be boys excuse. But this time, Marge doesn't let it slide. She stands up in court and says something no parent ever wants to say. My kid has a problem. He needs help. And just like that, Bart is sentenced to 28 days in rehab for prank addiction. At first, he treats it like a joke. He booby-traps the counselor's chair with thumbtacks. He smirks through therapy, but then something strange happens. When the counselor tries to trick Marge into sitting on the rigged chair, Bart panics and yells for her to stop. That's when the doctor calls it empathy. Bart finally shows a shred of it. He goes through the program, makes amends, apologizes to Willie for writing Skinner sucks with his chalker, and just as he's about to graduate, he pranks someone again. Rehab didn't erase Bart, it just refocused him. The school holds a Bart Simpson apology day. Balloons are suspended from the ceiling. Milhouse is impressed by Bart's progress until he sees the setup. And just before Bart steps onto the stage to drop the water balloons on the entire crowd, Marge stops him. She whispers, "No matter what happens today, know that your mother will always believe in you." It hits him like a freight train. Bart pauses. He rethinks everything. Then, a splash. He does it anyway, because of course he does. From crashing a bus to faking a pandemic, from destroying Edna Krabappel's career to terrorizing Springfield with clowns, Bart's dumbest moves prove one thing he never learns. His childish mistakes ruin trips, careers, and sometimes entire towns. And yet, that's exactly why we love him. Bart Simpson will always be Springfield's eternal 10-year-old, reckless, selfish, and hopelessly immature. He may never grow up, but that's what makes him unforgettable.